Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 Last Days of Europe with me, Papa Omega and Greater Germanic Reich. So, it's January 19th, so let's unpause the game and continue. We have been getting some introductory information. We landed a man on the moon with the help of our rocket experts. And now we'll probably see the outcome. So, as I mentioned before, I'm not entirely... Hey, free production units. That is something that I'm deeply interested in. Get me more civilian industries, even if you cannot fund them for now. We want those. So, after the Man of the Moon, I think we might go with the enemy of my enemy, which will try to approach the United States of America and attempt to lure them into warming the relations between us and possible global effort to contain Japan, because if there is a trilateral world, we should try to make it bilateral, and I'd much rather work with United States than with Japan. Okay, so the Man on the Moon. This is our moment, the culmination of decades of tiresome research and continuous advancement. Headed by the brilliant Dr. Werner von Braun, the German Aerospace Center is ready to commence the greatest operation to date, landing the first man on the moon. If successful, it will become the Reich's greatest scientific achievement since the weaponization of the atom. The space race is to now come to an end, with the dominant will of the National Socialism soon to triumph over the degenerate Americans and backwards Japanese once again. Hi, Hitler. So, next, the enemy of my enemy. Despite our rather lucrative partnership during the Second World War, our diplomatic relations with the Japanese Empire have since become significantly more frosty. As we battle for dominance in the East, it is perhaps time to warm our relations with a certain former enemy who despises the Japanese even more than we do, the United States of America. Despite our opposed political philosophies and troubled past, if we can warm our relations together, we may be able to contain the samurai and ensure the fall of the rising sun. So let's go with that one. It seems like increasing trade and having diplomatic relations with the United States might not be all that bad. We have -10 with them. Same with Japan, so it's not so bad. The Blonde Beast. Formerly the protector of Bohemia Moravia, director of the SD, Sicherheitsdienst, I think, and one of the principal architects of the Endlösung, the final solution, the very name Reinhard Heydrich is uttered in fear by German citizens and Slavs alike. A man of infamously intellectual and cultured sensibilities, the Reichsführer of the German SS hides his insatiable animalistic hunger for power behind a cold sheen of quiet reservation. While his meteoric rise in influence and status throughout the 1930s and 1940s surprised nobody, few could have predicted his ascension to the leadership of the Schutzstaffel would come as a result of Heinrich Himmler's failed coup in the 1950s. Okay, so there's something I mentioned that I read about. Despite its many fractures, the party is unified behind its hatred of Heydrich and fear of his SS. Many believes it is only Hitler's respect for the man with the iron heart that enables him to maintain such a position of brutal authority, although others would point to a different source. Heinrich Himmler, tyrannical despot of the mysterious Ordnungsstaat Burgund, is theorized by many to be the true power behind the throne. While Heydrich and Himmler have their disagreements, both men advocate the return of the true National Socialism, by which they mean an end to the corruption of the party and the imposition of a totalitarian state dedicated to the values of the SS. The attempts by Hitler's inner circle to reduce the influence of the SS has not been entirely unsuccessful, but as long as Heydrich remains to be its leader, it will not dissipate so easily. There is no problem which the Gestapo cannot solve. Geheime Stadtpolizei. Well, anyway, with last episode we launched the Adler, which is here, and it has no air wings. Do we produce... We have Corsair support and the jet fighters. Are we producing those? Or... is that simply done? Jet tactical, jet stream, jet interceptor, jet fighter. We are not. Okay, so we'll need to look into that. Assassin strikes the theater. Oh, on January 21st, 1962, as the Reich still celebrated their victory in the space race, Germania froze in shock as an individual of Japanese origin entered the Führer's office and attempted to assassinate Hitler. Armed with a handgun, the assassin, suspected to be a member of the Japanese Tokumusoukan, would have killed Hitler if one of his bodyguards had not happened to enter the Führer's office off schedule. Hitler was shot once before the agent was killed, and the Führer was briefly hospitalized before being declared stable. While he survived, news briefly leaked that he had been killed in the attempt, and the Reichstag entered crisis without a leader. Members of the German RSD briefly locked down the city. Armored, as it was probably German Reichssicherdienst, briefly locked down the city, armored cars filling the streets, and roadblocks ending all traffic for the day. The situation nearly turned to disaster when separate orders were given to both forces of the Wehrmacht and units belonging to the RHSA to occupy the city and ensure peace. When both groups, as well as the Reichssicherdienst, that's probably that, ordered the others to stand down, a 36-hour standoff occurred that nearly turned to open war in the streets had Hitler not recovered and given a personal order for all military units to return to their barracks. Blood was shed regardless, as several officials belonging to various factions were assassinated in the chaos. Victims of plans sprung too soon. Jesus Christ. Heinrich Himmler has denounced the chaos, claiming that the strike would have been prevented had the Reich not fallen to decadence, and ordering SS units across Burgundy to prepare to ensure peace in Germany, supposedly only if Hitler requests their assistance. The German SS, while supposedly independent from Himmler, had begun voicing support for his involvement. The incident has shown the dire need the state has for an heir to the Nazi Empire, but the Reichstag sits frozen, unable to decide. Not only has this been brought to light, however, but the relations with Japan are now at an all-time low, and although Japan has denied sending the assassin, Wehrmacht leaders have been ordered to prepare readying for the worst. Our scars are exposed to the world. So we lose 100 political power. Do we have anything? No, we don't have any choice either way to what to use the power for. And German-Japanese tensions will increase by 20% for total tensions of 60. Assassin strikes at Hitler. News from Germany is sporadic at best. Information smuggled out of Germania reports that shortly after celebrations over the moon landing settled, military units and several platoons worth of bodyguard units filled the streets and immediately put the city under martial law. Apparently, an assassin which the Germans claims belonged to the Japanese Tokumusoukan attempted to kill the Führer but was stopped in his attempt by one of Hitler's personal bodyguards. Already reports of various other assassinations have surfaced. In the streets, the various military units nearly came to blows, as several units ordered each other to stand down, and the chain of command fell apart. Suddenly the Reich seems much weaker. Can the Germans maintain their New World Order when they can hardly handle themselves? A house divided. I'm not entirely sure if it makes sense that the Japanese would send an assassin in such an open attempt. That's a bit weird. But, okay, well, whatever. I think we're gonna learn that either way. So no decisions here for now. Okay, we'll need to start producing the carrier jet fighter for the carrier, and do we have carrier calls have support? Do we have a carrier bomber? We don't. Okay, so it just has to be jet carrier. So take one factor away from the interceptors and one from the basic jet fighter. That should help. And we're going to be producing 7 per year. That's really not all that great. Do we have any more things that we could put there? Basic artillery. Okay, we can take 2 factories away from that. By the way, I investigated if we could upgrade some of our, ships. It turns out we really cannot. When you look even at the oldest models, for example, I was looking at the 1934 Zerstörers. They seem to be fully upgraded. There's, the batteries. Okay, well, we could give them a better white battery, but that doesn't really change the fact that they got everything they need. For example, the anti-air is the max. They got 40mm quad AA. So unless we changed these, we could. Okay, but I'm kind of surprised that they have all the modules full and everything, which is kind of interesting. Hitler addresses the nation. Okay, I thought that we would be able to. Let's look at the operative first. So Albert Jung, sabotage cost, seducer. Okay, Marie Pfeiffer seems like the person for the job. And I think that this attack on Hitler actually warrants us in starting the passive defense, because that will take away some of our factories, but on the other hand, it will benefit us in short term. How's the economy doing? Okay, deficit is increased, unfortunately. There's not much I can do. I can kill the science expenditures. Let's do it this way. Real growth is going to be 0.35%, and year deficit is going to be 0.22. We're going to have a bit of research going. So Hitler addresses the nation. Today the world watches as one of the most significant moments of the 20th century prepares to take place. Almost a week after the Führer was shot in an attempted assassination believed to have been orchestrated by Japan, Hitler today appeared on national television, with the necessity for an appointed successor being exposed by the incident. Following days of heated debate, Hitler stood before the Reichstag to announce his choice. 4 candidates have been speculated for days. Martin Bormann, expert politician and head of the party, is a staunch conservative and believed the most likely candidate. Also believed highly possible is the militarist Hermann Göring, the beloved uncle of the nation, if Hitler is the father. Another name being put forward is Albert Speer, one of the Führer's closest friends, who has advocated for extensive reforms within the Reich. Finally, some have even suggested that naming Reinhard Heydrich as the successor would allow for the hostility between Germany and the SS to finally come to an end. After a lengthy, sometimes incoherent speech, during which the Führer spoke repeatedly about the strength of Germany, at times seeming to lose his train of thought, the Führer lifted a trembling hand and declared his chosen successor would be, well, the reformer, I guess, Albert Speer. Not only is he probably the closest to me in his political thinking, I also mentioned that I found him relatively brave in the face of adversity of Germany, and he is even named the reformer. And if Germany needs something right now, it is definitely a reform, because the debt and GDP and everything, we're not gonna go, with Butcher. I don't like Martin Bormann, I don't know much about him, and Hermann Göring might be a good option, but he's a militarist, so I think reformer Albert Speer is going to be the right choice. So this opened the power struggle for us. In the aftermath of the recent assassination attempt on Führer's life, he has seen fit to name his official successor and designate upon him the matters of state that he, in his age, cannot perform. As the Führer's condition worsens, it is almost assured that the responsibilities for his most high office will pass more and more to his successor. Yet Hitler's chosen is not alone. 3 other men vie for power of the Führer, and their webs of influence have been spun far and deep. The German people may not know it, but within the halls of the Volkshalle, a silent war for the future of Germany rages. Victory in this conflict may bring advantages where the situation further deteriorates. Influence points may be spent on several buffs for our faction. However, it would be unwise to spend it all at once, as our remaining influence points could affect our starting position if the worst comes to the worst. So Adolf Hitler is currently in good health. That's good to know. Martin Bormann's influence is 25. Hermann Göring's is 15. Albert Speer is 15. Heydrich is 5. Okay, so what can we do? Divert infantry equipment. With militias forming all through the Reich, we must ensure our supporters are better armed than all others. By using our leaders' authority to divert military-grade supplies towards loyal regions, we can secure an important advantage should all other solutions fail. So this is gonna take 5 legitimacy, and we gain 5,000 additional infantry weapons. Okay, and look for opportunities. It is said that if you want something done properly, you have to do it yourself. In the endless battle for legitimacy among the German people, it is thus necessary to find an opportunity, any opportunity. Let's take a look. There will be possibilities if we just look hard enough. Okay, so I'll keep this one as an option because that seems like a good thing. We'll see what it's gonna go. National focus bypassed the reformer. So our tree has changed. Okay, so I wonder if it's possible to get the events of the original one, or if this is that would be kind of cool if it was just like a mock-up. So the reformer. With the furious proclamation of Reichsminister Albert Speer a successor, public opinion has been left divided, with many doubting Speer's ability to govern, whilst others are enthusiastic of potential change in the Reich. A highly controversial choice, Herr Speer has all but alienated himself from the upper echelons of the state through his strong advocacy of reformist policies in the Reich designed to steer the troubled nation towards a possible prosperous future. Despite his close friendship with the Führer, this remains an uphill battle for the architect of Germania. Okay, so real in the Orpo is the first possibility. Actually, one thing that I noticed is that our stability is fairly low, and I'm pretty sure that this affects the GDP. So anything that's gonna give us boost to stability is something that I think would be a good idea. So with the student-led protest intensifying over the initial months of 1962, the Orpo is beginning to resort to more desperate, aggressive acts of law enforcement as the students have become more violent and fierce. With the situation quickly descending into utter chaos, and with a potentially fatal clash between the students and Orpo being more likely than ever, Herr Speer has ordered the Orpo to be reeled in, neutering its ability to combat the students. So we lose a bit of command power, but we gain a bit of stability. Security lowers the oppressive police effectiveness. How much are we getting? 1.28 per day. This is gonna take away... not political power, command power. Okay, that's fine. I don't mind losing command power. I would like to look at the opportunities as soon as possible. That one seems like an event worth of our attention. Hitler names Speer his successor. Yeah, this is the same description. So let's send the Adler to the first Träger. Actually, what about if we send you to the first Träger? Yeah, we have less carriers in the first Träger, so let's send you there. And add you to that. We get airplanes in reserves, production units 143. Okay, we're gonna get... I want to check how this is gonna affect us. On 8th of February we're gonna get 3... Actually 2. This one's gonna be done on 11th. Oh god, we got a yearly surplus of 2% of GDP. And we get a real growth of 0.63. That's interesting, okay. So do we have a reserve building up, or... No, we have an auto payment going. Okay, well, yearly surplus of 4.66 billion. Not bad. A meeting with the Führer. Gain base stability minus 5%, and Hitler's condition worsens. That's not exactly what I was hoping to see. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Albert Speer stood by the window as Adolf shuffled into the room, muttering to himself. Those large blue eyes settled on Speer's face, and he smiled, shuffling over to join his friend in the sunlight. He suddenly hailed Speer with a jovial croak, lifting his trembling arms in salute. The action threw him off balance, and he stumbled forward with a groan. Speer instinctively grabbed the old man's shoulders and steadied him carefully. Heil Hitler, Speer said with a sad smile. You must be careful, Adolf. I did not come here to see you collapse from an old joke. I came here to give my humble gratitude at being named your successor. His tone turned serious. I wish to see the German Reich last 1,000 years, but I don't think this can be achieved without a serious change in policy. Goering calls me a radical, as if he actually has any convictions. That man would stuff his cabinet with Jews if it meant a fresh cluster of medals and a fancy new outfit. As for Bormann, that balding little weasel, Hitler suddenly spat, his face contorting in anger. Martin and Hermann, they want everything. They don't realize I cannot die. The Führer glared at his economic minister with feverish eyes. Hitler is Germany, and Germany is Hitler. If I die, the Jews will descend upon the carcass like vultures. An eruption of rasping coughs exploded from his throat, racking his whole body. He gripped Speer's shoulders intensely, his face growing redder by the second. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The door suddenly burst open, and a cluster of the Führer's personal guards streamed into the room. Rokus Misch held onto the Führer's arm and pulled him to the door, glaring at Speer in distrust. Before Speer could say anything, his old friend had been taken away. His bemused silence was punctuated only by the incessant ticking of the clock. So Hitler is currently in good health, which is probably going to... Yeah, he's in fair health now. I wonder how old he is. It's 1962. I don't know. He was born somewhere in 1895 or something like that. Does anyone know? Please remind me. I want to check what the age Hitler has, because he's been described here as fairly decrepit. Okay, this could actually lower our depth significantly. We're at 106%. The Adler has increased the depth significantly. But we'll see how it's gonna go. Okay, stability is 40%. We need to find ways how to increase our stability. No, I don't see any options here anywhere. So does this tell me it has a 0 effect on the GDP growth? I'm thinking if I increase, for example, the science expenditures, if it would boost the growth of the economy. Student protests intensify. As 1962 began to draw on, and the government of the Reich remained locked in a slow stagnation, the protests by student groups across the nation about slavery, the still-failed economy, and the constant border wars in the Reichskommissariats, about the fear of war, and about 1,000 other things raged on. With nearly 1 million students constantly marching, protesting and disrupting business, and countless others joining them, the Reich seemed completely unable to cope with the crisis. While many in the government demand harsh actions, nobody knows what a real harsh action they can take to a movement so large and so disorganized. While threats have been made against the protesters, they remain undeterred as their numbers swell. And with no central authority, there is no head for the government to cut off. With the Orpo so disorganized and with so many paramilitary groups trying to keep peace, it has been a wonder that the situation has yet to explode. At least, this was the situation until a small army of protesters began getting rowdy with a group of Orpo officers in Aachen, and a small group of riot officers decided to open up the city's armory and quell the unrest forcefully. What? Wait, don't! Okay, is there a difference? No. Let's event the student revolt. The student revolt. Der Tag des Verrats is what they're calling it, the day of betrayal. Betrayal against the people of the Reich by their leaders, their police, their military by... Wait, what is this? Event decision timeout? Oh, okay, we need to check that. Their police, their military, by everyone. Police in Aachen took it upon themselves to open fire on a crowd of teenagers who had started a small riot outside the local Orpo station, and what started as police shooting has sparked a massive riot across the city. Aachen is now burning as Orpo units there struggle to hold their lines against the furious crowds of rioters, and with the military stepping in and declaring martial law and Orpo units ordered to stand down, large sections of the city have been left to the mob. The action hasn't been limited to Aachen, with both protesters and overzealous Orpo officers across the country taking up arms in inspiration. Oh wow, we were getting swarmed in events. The action hasn't been... most of the largest cities of the Reich now look like a war zone, with condemnation and protests in fellowship reaching as far as Muscovy. Dang it. Well, this is gonna take away 100 political power. I'd actually like to look for the opportunities first, so let's wait a bit until we get 25 power and I'm gonna take this hit. Volkssicher Beobachter, Lipetsk prison breakout. Despite the little information... Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, so we reeled in the Orpo. Now what we can do? Embrace the students. That's gonna give me a legitimacy of 5 for Speer. Increases popularity of fascism by 5 and gives me further political power. Calm down the Wehrmacht. Again, extra legitimacy. Gain base stability of 3% but lowers command power. Through the nation. Approach the friends. The first reforms. This is a future. A new kind of war. Defender with Waffe. Okay. I guess there really isn't much of a difference between these, so we might just go with embracing the students. I kind of like that we can defund with Waffe, which would give us a bit of liquid reserve, but I don't think that's actually that. Oh, this one is good though. The sensible economy, GDP growth increased by 0.25. So let's start with embracing the students. Wow, so let's read this while we wait. The Lipetsk prison breakout. Despite what little information the German Reichskommissariat Muscovy lets out of its borders, the news about its most recent failure in governments have spread well beyond the borders of the Einheitspact. Ivan Vorobilov... Oh, we took it. Well, never mind then. I guess you cannot game the game. Ivan Vorobilov, a former Red Army soldier and German collaborator turned partisan, escaped from Muscovian Lipetsk prison. Actually, I'm going to stop it before we get swarmed with more events. Former a hotbed of resistance, has since... Wait. Yes... Ivan Vorobilov, a former Red Army soldier and German collaborator turned partisan, escaped from Muscovian's Lipetsk prison in a bold breakout staged by unidentified forces. The broader Lipetsk region, formerly a hotbed of resistance, has since experienced a dramatic rise in insurgent activity. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this. With many other regions reporting similar issues, Siegfried Kascha, the Reichskommissar of Muscovian, has already made several executive orders to quell the spread of disorder using his signature methods. Germania has refused to comment. Destiny Call is as loud as it can be. So what's up with the Reichskommissariat Muscovian? Siegfried Kascha. National Socialism. Okay, they have no focuses, I guess. Autonomous Reichskommissariat. General Pan Muscovian. So who is this guy? A better the dream not achieved than the one that is twisted, corrupted and deformed. Siegfried Kascha has always had one dream. It was always clear and uncompromised. The Reich shall bathe in glory and blood of each of every soul that tried to oppose it. The communists, the degenerates, the Untermensch, the traitors, and the ones who thought that the National Socialist triumph was not possible. The dream became twisted. Despite loyally serving the NSDAP since its inception, despite serving in the Slavic lands, places no German should ever find itself needing to touch, on its behalf, Despite assuming the title of the Reichskommissar of Muscovian, all his dreams did was to lock him down in a prison with keys from it leading to nowhere. Yes, the Slav is enslaved by all the means, from factories to farms. Yes, the Slav is afraid to look up to see the light, as there will always be a whip by his back. Yes, the Slav have degenerated into betraying each other whenever the ego wishes, at least in Kasha's mind. But this is not enough, and it will never be. The future of Kasha, of Muscovian and its history, is locked and can only be changed if the whole prison is destroyed by the wishes of destiny or against them. Okay, that's really awful. So the Gang of Four comes next. The Reich is granitic edifice, firmly under the Führer's control and utterly dedicated to the glorification of the German people and National Socialism. It is not at all what true is. Wow, this is a weird sentence. The country lies in decay and stagnation, and the one group of people have taken it upon themselves to champion the most radical change of them all, Albert Speer and his Gang of Four. Kurt Georg Kiesinger is a prominent member of the NSDAP with deep connections to many organs within the Reich. While charismatic and cautious, his reformist views didn't endear him to the conservative leadership. Ludwig Erhard is an extremely respected, outside of Germany that is, economist who had already presided the economic collapse. Of course, in a modern version of Cassandra's tale, no one listened to him until it was too late, and his vehement criticism earned him many enemies. Helmut Schmidt is an expert diplomat who joined the NSDAP mainly to cover the fact that he hates National Socialism with a vengeance. His ambition far outstrips his rank, but having managed to live this far, Schmidt plans to bring change to Germany, if his guilt does not overwhelm him. Henning von Tresco is yet another enigma, a man shown as the shining image of the Prussian ideal, who is himself averse to the strictness of military life, but maintains the prim and proper stereotypical Prussian spirit in public while working fiercely to undermine National Socialism. Each an expert in their own field, they have found themselves tangled in a strange alliance of which Speer must constantly be wary of. He knows his goals of reforming Hitler's ideology do not align with theirs, but he will use their influence and ability to his disposal. The gang sees Speer as a future threat, snapping their jaws at opportunities to limit his influence, yet both, in a paradoxical relationship, need each other to survive the rolling political climate of the dying Reich. To them, the door must be kicked in, and the rotting structures rebuilt in the aftermath. Okay, the art of diplomacy. Oh god, Hitler's condition worsens even further. He's gonna die soon, isn't he? The cacophony of clinking glasses and waves of forced laughter was giving Martin Bormann a headache. Among the 2,000 guests milling around and sitting at tables were a fair number of diplomats of both German and foreign extraction. He placed the speech notes on top of the podium with his sweaty hands, surveying the room in apprehension. The speech was short and simple, admittedly a little bland. Bormann smiled to himself bitterly. He had never been able to match the striking visual imagery and acerbic wit of Goebbels' writing. At times like these, he almost missed that lecherous little rat. "Gentlemen," Bormann announced into the microphone, waiting as a blanket of silence gradually fell upon the crowd. "The Führer," he turned to his right and saluted. The guests followed suit, rising to their feet and saluting to varying degrees of hastiness. Adolf Hitler shuffled towards the podium and grasped it with two trembling hands. "Recent events may herald a diplomatic shift for the Reich." Hitler's voice quickly faded away. Bormann's blood ran cold as Hitler looked up and eyed the hall in confusion. Where is Ernst? He told me he would be here." Bormann strode over the podium and placed an arm behind the Führer's back, gently leading him away. The old man's body was violently quivering. I think I was at your wedding," Hitler exclaimed loudly, his rasping voice reverberating throughout the hall. Confused murmurs erupted throughout the crowd. "Are you still in the SA?" "Forgive me, gentlemen," Walter Havel exclaimed, swiftly taking the podium as Bormann and Misch led Hitler through the exit. "The Führer has accidentally given my speech. Allow me to continue. The real question is, are any of us still in the SA? You see, the Reich's diplomatic progression can be mirrored in some way with the evolution of the SA. A disaster averted? Damn, this is... I feel sorry for him, to be quite honest. This is a poor way to go. Prime Minister of Australia resigns. Australian Labour Prime Minister Kim Beazley has resigned after a pork-barrelling scandal claimed several high-profile members of the federal cabinet. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were funneled into marginal seats in a plot to steer the result of Labour's favour. Beazley was not implicated, but cited his failure to turn the searchlight of absolute honesty onto the party as the reason for his resignation. Do they have... No, they don't have any focuses. Dr. Herbert V. Evatt, a leading member of the ALP's left faction, has been chosen as the party's interim leader. Okay. Making him the current Prime Minister of Australia. The erratic former High Court judge will preside over the government until its parliamentary caucus convenes to elect the man who will carry it to the upcoming snap elections. However, Labour's poor performance in the nationwide opinion polls and Evatt's declining health have stirred rumors of leadership change. Well, okay then. Decisions available. Strategic fort building. The situation is quickly deteriorating, and it's only a matter of time before the gates of hell open. By ordering the construction of fortifications in zones where our control is strongest, we can gain enough time to organize our supporters in the coming struggle. So Hessen-Nassau, Magdeburg-Anhalt, and Koln-Aachen. That's like the northwest of Germany, isn't it? West Hanover. Yeah, Magdeburg-Anhalt is here. Westfalen Nord. Yeah, here's Hessen-Nassau. Was the last one Aachen? Koln-Aachen. So that should be somewhere around this area. Koln. Aachen is in the... Here's Münster. Oh, here. Aachen and Koln. Okay, so this looks like it would be built around this area. And we do have... Okay, more available factories. No, we lost production units. Okay. That doesn't really matter. Anyway, I think that's enough for this episode. This situation is starting to get out of hand. Poor Hitler, man, that's not a way to go for anyone. I mean, these sentences don't really go together well, but I hope you guys know what I mean. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode.